Today I'm going to be talking about a topic called interteaching. How many of you ever heard the term interteaching before? Probably no one, okay? Probably no one. It's a relatively new teaching technique. And what I'm going to do today is I'm first going to demonstrate the technique for you. You'll actually be doing quite a bit of work in this workshop. There's going to be a lot of reading to do. There's going to be a lot of writing to do. So be prepared for that, okay? This is what my classroom looks like back at home. This is a setup where students work in small groups, usually pairs, or 3 or 4 people. The system that I'm going to talk to you about is based on small group work, but it is not team-based learning. It's very different than that. Does everybody have a handout now on both sides? Okay. We need some more handouts. The Deanship has asked me to make sure we adhere to a schedule. So this is the schedule we'll be following today. From 9 to 10:15 we'll actually be in the workshop. We'll then have a 15-minute break, and I like to keep it at 15 minutes. We come back at 10:30, and we work for another hour for the workshop. Then we break for lunch and prayer. Then we're back for about 90 minutes, okay? Let me tell you a little bit about myself so you have a little bit better background of who I am. I've been married for 43 years. I have 5 children. They're all adults now. My youngest is 32. My oldest is 42. So the last kids were twins. We didn't know they were going to be twins until 6 weeks before they were delivered. So it was quite a surprise to us. They didn't do ultrasound as a routine back in those days. What's that?
One of each?
One of each. No, 2 boys. And had they been the first born, they would have been the last born. I recently retired. I'm a full professor. I worked at Auburn University in Auburn, Alabama. For most of my career, I was 2 other places, but not there very long. While I was at Auburn, I developed a specialty in teaching. I'm actually a psychologist by training, but I found very quickly that there were some really interesting problems in teaching. And they drew my interest, and so I became a researcher on teaching. Most of my effort has gone to study master teachers. I have traveled all over the United States, Canada, a few other countries including Saudi Arabia, where I've watched master teachers practice their craft. My goal was to figure out what it is that they do so well. What makes those people excellent? I'm going to share with you just a little bit of that research today, but just a little bit. I've been coming to the kingdom for the past 10 years, almost at least once a year. I took a sabbatical, and I actually lived in Riyadh for 6 months back in 2010. But my very first presentation was here in this city. And I presented to KFU faculty, but not here. They put me up at this hotel. Anybody recognize this hotel? The Intercontinental Hotel. And this was the first group of individuals I ever presented to over here. So, does anybody recognize any of those gentlemen? Are they still around? Do you recognize them? Okay. Yeah. This one here? Yeah, well, tell them I said hi. And why aren't they here? Okay. So, but it was a really, really wonderful experience, and that's when I began to fall in love with the Middle East. It was my first trip to the Middle East. Fell in love with the culture, the people, and especially the food. So, always good. So, what I want to do today is I want to review some basic principles of fundamental teaching. To me, we can always take time to remind ourselves what those principles are. We sometimes take them for granted. I wish we wouldn't, but sometimes we need to be reminded of them. So I'm going to walk you through quite a few of those today. I'm also going to, at the beginning and at the end, talk a lot about interteaching. Welcome. We have a lot more men than we do women today. So, usually it's the other way around. Time permitting, I'm going to give you some practice in developing your own interteaching skills. Now, I understand that none of you have the slides. Okay. So let me go back here. Oh, it's not up here. My email address. B as in boy. U. S. K. I. W. F. Busky, W. F as in Frank. Or falafel, I guess. Does falafel start with an F?
Yeah.
No, or a P? Oh. At auburn.edu. auburn.edu. Busky. auburn.edu. If you email me, I will send you a copy of the slides. Okay? Busky WF. Okay? Last thing I want to do is I want to have fun today. I want to make sure that this is enjoyable. There'll be a lot of discussion. There's a lot of chance for you to contribute to this workshop. But I'm going to start you off by working you hard. Okay? I'm going to work you hard. I always like to start with some quotations that relate to what we're going to talk about. This is Dr. Benjamin Ludi. And he said something one time in a book that he wrote for me that I thought was very profound. He said, if you teach, learn to do it well. Presumably that's why we're here. But he also said, if you already teach well, learn to do it better. And the reason I like this quotation is because it tells me that you can never stop improving. Teaching is a craft. It's not something you can perfect. You might have a perfect lecture one time, but chances of duplicating that again are very remote. Very remote. The second gentleman is a very famous author in higher education. His name is Parker Palmer. And in a book he wrote called The Courage to Teach, now think about that title, The Courage to Teach. Not everybody can teach well. It takes some courage. It takes some gumption. It takes some spirit to do this well. He said, good teaching cannot be reduced to technique. In other words, just because you've got a teaching approach to teaching, like interteaching or problem-based learning or team-based learning, doesn't mean you're going to be a good teacher. You can still be a bad teacher no matter what method you use. But what he said next is really, really important. Good teaching comes from the identity and integrity of the teacher. That is, who you are. Fundamentally, what's revealed in your teaching is you. The kind of person you are, the kind of values you hold, the kinds of things that you really appreciate. These are the things that come across. This is what makes you a good teacher. So all of you, think about your core traits. What are the personality traits that define who you are? Those are what you want to bring out in the classroom. Except if you're a mean, rotten human being, then you don't want to be teaching at all. Okay? But if you're kind, if you're respectful, if you are social, if you are funny, these are the kinds of things that can enhance your teaching and draw students into the learning process. This last person is anonymous. We don't know who he is. And he once said, no one ever achieves excellence in teaching by accident. In other words, you're not born an excellent teacher. It may be true that some of us have natural propensities that lend themselves to become good or even excellent teachers. but it is nonetheless true that excellence in teaching requires extraordinary effort and hard work. Excuse me. I like that quote even though I said it, because to me it says that not only do you never reach perfection, but as you're striving for perfection, you got to work hard. Even though you may never achieve it, you've got to work hard to be excellent. You have perfection in teaching, you have excellence in teaching. They're not the same. Okay. Excellence is the best we can do. Excuse me. I want you to ask yourself, what are the consequences of teaching well? What benefits accrue to students by your good teaching, by your excellent teaching? Think about that for a few minutes. Okay, we have a couple of answers. Yes?
Engagement.
Engagement. I would buy that. Engagement. Tell us what engagement is.
Yeah, let students involved interchange experience and knowledge between both sides.
Excellent answer. It's the student involvement in the exchange of information, not only among students, but between students and teacher.
Exactly.
Thank you very much. Sir? Yes. Okay, explain to me what you mean by that.
I mean, the person has to be knowledgeable enough to express himself and try to teach the students the way it should be, good preparation.
Exactly, exactly. What happens to students is that they learn what is required of them to become prepared enough to be able to share their thoughts and ideas with the class. Very good. Way in the back, really loud.
Confidence.
I can't hear you. The fan overhead is too loud.
Confidence.
Confidence, very good. I would buy that. Say it one more time.
Confidence.
Oh yeah, you're very confident when you speak. Okay. Confidence. And pray tell, what is confidence?
Through your the way of interacting with students, you make the student very confident to express himself, to express his opinions and so on.
Okay, so what you're saying is they develop a belief about themselves that they can do something, that they believe that they can do it.
Please come again. Sorry.
Okay. What you're saying to me is what confidence is students developing a belief about themselves that they can accomplish something.
Yeah.
They're sure of themselves.
Yeah. Mostly students feel shy in the first time. So when you let the student, you make a lecture something like interaction or open discussion and so on. So you pave the way.
Exactly.
To the student,
That's exactly right. That's what a good teacher will do. They will set the occasion, usually by small steps, to help students develop confidence in themselves, to express themselves in class, to interact with each other in class. Thank you.
The future leaders, future leader.
That they've developed certain skills that they can transfer to other places, and one of them might be leadership, is what you're saying. Thank you very much.
Students will not sleep in class.
Yeah, they learn not to sleep in class. Very good. Ladies, do you have any comments? Really loud. I've got bad ears.
I think the good teaching, it will help students to be independent students. They can search by themselves. They can know how they get the information and the knowledge by themselves by guidance from the teachers.
That's a good one. That is. They become independently self-regulated learners,
Yes.
if you will. Thank you.
Impact, very important, impact. You can make an impact on your student if you are an excellent teacher.
Okay, so yeah, if you're a good teacher, but how does that impact affect the students?
I think they will learn. I think excellent teaching will.
They will become more,
Yeah,
they'll
more
become,
interested in learning.
right, they'll become interested in learning.
Yes.
Exactly right. I think all of us, just to follow up on that comment, all of us probably can attribute our being here today to one or two teachers who somehow turned us on to learning. I mean, whatever field you're in, is probably because you were attracted to a teacher in some way, shape, or form that somehow helped that information become alive and exciting and interesting to you, so interesting to you that you decided to devote your careers to it. And that's an amazing, amazing impact. So that's a wonderful comment. Thank you. Who is the microphone? Oh, okay. Nothing?
Yes, but a good teacher should combine art plus science, to have a good impact on this.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think what a good teacher is able to do is to communicate both sides of the equation.
Yes, and be a very eclectic teacher.
Exactly.
It's very important.
Exactly. Okay, last comment.
I wanted to say that good teaching can foster genuine passion for the subject.
Very good.
And it's not, of course, we use motivation like grades and everything with the students, but when the students really enjoy the class, this will create genuine passion that will last. You will find them reading in the vacation. For example, if it's literature, if it's novels, this will continue on as a lifetime habit.
Yeah,
Passion, genuine passion.
You're exactly right. You're exactly right. I like this comment for a couple of reasons. One is that related to teaching itself, if you look through all the literature on what makes a teacher good or excellent, the very top thing that comes out is passion. It's that passion that you share with students that really gets them excited about the field. And the other reason I like that comment is because it's contagious. If you're not passionate about what you're doing, how can you expect your students to be passionate? I mean, it's that simple. It really is that simple. So when you come into class and you make eye contact with your students, you use hand gestures, you use your body to emphasize points, you're on time, you prepare interesting materials, this is how students know that you're passionate about what you do. Okay? It's not a matter of jumping up and down and saying, oh, hey, I'm really excited today. This is going to be great. That's not it. It's more subtle than that. Okay? It comes from here. It comes from here. Thank you on both sides very much. I appreciate that. Let me walk through this and see what we came up with here. Enhanced learning and thinking. You covered that. Relevance. We didn't really talk about that. What happens is, if you teach well, students come to see the relevance of that material to their lives. Even if they're just passing through your class, it's not their major. They can understand how your ideas in your field relate to them on an everyday basis. Self-discovery. They learn things about themselves that they didn't know before. Excuse me. Engagement. That was the first thing we said. Belongingness. Many students at the university, sometimes they just wander through those 4 or 5 years that they're in college. They never connect with anybody. But what a good teacher does by making the content relevant, by engaging students, is to give students a sense of like, I can do this. What do we call that? Confidence. Okay? Self-efficacy is another word for confidence. Self-efficacy is more specific than the word confidence. It means that you have a strong belief of yourself in a particular area. For example, public speaking. That's one of the things that college education can do for a student, is to increase his or her confidence in public speaking. What's the number one fear across the planet? Public speaking. And yet, this is what we all do every day. Okay? That's why it's often important to have your students have the opportunity to speak in class and provide gentle feedback. Excuse me, I don't know why I'm coughing so much. A good teacher, an excellent teacher, can change the course of the student's career. They can, from taking a course from you, decide this is what they want to do for the rest of their lives, as opposed to taking another course in your discipline from a mediocre teacher who doesn't bring that excitement to the class. And finally, just pure enjoyment. This is fun. This is really fun stuff. They look forward to coming to class. They don't want to miss class because they don't want to disappoint you. So thanks a lot for walking through that. And thanks a lot for your suggestions. Okay, so we're going to get started on the hard work. Everybody have a handout? Okay. Let me walk you through the handouts before I get you to work. It's a long handout, okay? I've given you some interesting stuff in here. The first 7 pages is an article that I'm going to have you read. You're going to sit and read in silence. And then once you're done reading, there's a series of questions on the next page I want you to answer, okay? We're going to go all the way up to break time doing that. So it's going to be real quiet in here. Okay? Yeah, I hope. But then after a while it's going to get loud because I'm going to put you together. I teach using the method I'm going to talk to you about today. So I've included some materials from my classes to give you examples of what interteaching class looks like. So I've given you a copy of my syllabus. It's 16 pages long, okay? This is a very rigorous course I teach. And my course outline is very specific. It's very detailed. I gave you what's called a prep guide with a key to show you the kinds of questions you should write when you develop a student questionnaire about any kind of material. I've given you a sample problem from an examination to show you how I integrate interteaching into the exam. Okay? Many of my exams are going to be 8 to 10 pages long. Okay? Now, no multiple choice questions on this part of the exam. Although they do take a multiple choice part of the exam, but the problem-based learning part is often 10 pages long. I've included an article on interteaching written by the person who has done most of the research in this area on interteaching. His name is Brian Seville. And finally, I've given you a worksheet for creating prep guide questions. So with that in mind, I would like you to turn to page 2. We'll turn the lights back on. And I would like you to read the article on rules of engagement. And then I'd like you to answer the questions. So it's going to be real quiet in here for the next 45 minutes or so. What I've tried to do here is to capture the student experience in a class that's taught using interteaching. This is what students would do at home before they come to class. Okay, so this is part of this guarantees that students do the reading, because these questions are basically their ticket to get into class. If they don't do it, or they don't do it very well, when they come to class and have discussion, they'll be very much embarrassed. So it's a very, very powerful tool to get students to read. But that's just part of it. Let me ask you a question. ¿Alguien aquí habla español? ¿Alguien aquí habla español? Does anybody speak Spanish? Okay, okay. Okay, good. So before we go, I want to teach you a little bit of Spanish. Okay, it's going to come into play later on. So I want you to repeat after me. Los musulmanes son buenas personas. Okay. Los musulmanes son buenas personas. Okay? Okay. 2 more times before we go on break. Okay, close. Okay, I can't write it. I don't have anything to write it down except for here. So, okay, so let me do this slowly. Yeah, I know, but it's not big enough for everybody to see him back. Los. Everybody say los in the back. Los. I want to see everybody's lips move. Los. Los. Musulmanes. 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 Sounds like I'm saying mayonnaise, but I'm not. Okay. Los musulmanes son buenos. Son buenos. Son buenas personas. Okay? Okay. Okay, I need you to hold this. Stand behind and hold it. Los musulmanes son buenos. Oops. Los musulmanes son buenas personas. Los musulmanes son buenas personas. Okay, you're going to have to remember this later on because it's going to be on a test. Okay? You're going to have to know it. Okay, and actually it's a really good demonstration. Los musulmanes son buenas personas. Okay? So the guys, one time. Los musulmanes son buenas personas. Excelente.